Talk for yourself. Who's your favorite swamp person on the show, now or past?
Moose Landry.
And why? Oh, he's so biased. He's so biased. Thank you, Jacob.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
What really happened to Jacob Landry, the quiet force behind swamp people's wildest hunts? Once a fan favorite steering boats through gator-filled waters, Jacob seemed to vanish from the spotlight. But his journey didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. From deep family roots in the Louisiana swamps to surprising turns beyond reality TV, his story is one of grit, tradition, and unexpected evolution. Why did he step back? And where is he now? Jacob Landry's story begins far from the bright lights of television studios or Hollywood cameras. Born on December 27, 1983, in the small town of Pierre, Louisiana, Jacob grew up surrounded by thick cypress trees, winding waterways, and the steady rhythm of life in the swamps. For most people, the swamp is a place to avoid, humid, unpredictable, and crawling with wildlife. But for Jacob, it was home. And from a very young age, it was where he learned not just how to survive, but how to thrive. Pierre is the kind of place where tradition holds strong. It's a tight-knit Cajun community, where generations often live close together, and many families pass down their trades through the years. Jacob was born into one of those families. His father, Troy Landry, is a well-known name not just locally but nationally, thanks to his later fame on the History Channel series Swamp People. But long before cameras ever rolled, Troy had already earned a reputation in Louisiana as a highly skilled alligator hunter, someone who knew the swamps inside and out. Growing up in that environment, it's no surprise that Jacob picked up the trade. From early childhood, he was exposed to the realities of life in the wetlands. There were no typical playgrounds or suburban streets. Instead, his playgrounds were the open waters. His paths were narrow bayous, and his after-school lessons were usually hands-on, casting nets, learning to spot alligator trails, and understanding how to read the weather by observing wildlife. This early exposure shaped his relationship with nature. Jacob wasn't taught to fear the swamp, but to respect it. One of the lessons his father often repeated was that the swamp always speaks. You just have to listen. That kind of mindset takes time to develop. It's not something you can pick up from a book. It requires years of observation, patience, and a deep understanding of the land and its patterns. Jacob spent countless hours with his father, learning not just how to hunt but also how to navigate the water safely, how to track animals, and how to deal with the often harsh conditions of the Louisiana wilderness. As a young boy, Jacob was naturally curious and eager to help, but like any child learning a complex skill, he had his share of mistakes. He once shared a story about trying to steer a boat for the first time, only to accidentally lose several fishing rods in the water. Instead of getting angry, Troy encouraged him to try again. It was these moments, simple but powerful, that built Jacob's confidence and taught him that failure was part of learning. In many ways, that patient guidance shaped him more than any single hunting trip ever could. While Jacob's father played a major role in teaching him the practical side of alligator hunting, his mother, Bernita Landry, influenced him in different but equally important ways. Bernita didn't join the hunting trips, but she was the backbone of the family, maintaining a sense of order and togetherness at home. She made sure her children understood the value of hard work, responsibility, and family unity. Jacob has often credited his mother with helping to keep their lives grounded even when things became difficult or unpredictable. Family meals were especially important in the Landry household. After long, demanding days out on the water or in the heat, they would sit down together for dinner. These weren't grand occasions, but everyday moments filled with conversation, laughter, and often lessons about life. For Jacob, those evenings were as meaningful as any day spent on the water. They reinforced the idea that no matter how tough the world outside might be, family is a constant and reliable source of strength. Despite the romanticized image some people may have of swamp life, Jacob's childhood was far from easy. The swamp has a way of testing people, not just physically, but mentally too. It's hot, humid, and filled with hazards. Bug bites, sudden downpours, dangerous currents, and the ever-present threat of alligators were part of his everyday life. But rather than scare him off, these experiences made Jacob tougher and more resilient. They also gave him a deep respect for nature's power. He didn't grow up thinking he could conquer the swamp. He grew up learning to coexist with it. One of the things that set Jacob apart even as a child was his connection to the land. He didn't just view the swamp as a place to work. He saw it as a living, breathing part of his world. Every sound, from birds calling in the distance to the splash of fish, told a story. Every change in the air or the sky held a clue, and every alligator was a reminder of the ecosystem's delicate balance. He often said the swamp taught him more about life than any classroom ever could. That connection stayed with him as he grew older. For Jacob, the swamp wasn't just a backdrop to his life. It was a teacher, a provider, and a part of his identity. His early years weren't about fame or recognition. They were about learning the rhythms of the natural world, understanding the traditions passed down by his family, and developing a strong sense of who he was and where he came from. The Landry family has long been known in Louisiana for their alligator hunting skills, but they're more than just hunters. They're stewards of a way of life that has existed for generations. Jacob's early life reflects that, a balance of tradition, respect for nature, and strong family values. These elements would later become central to his identity on television. But before any cameras arrived, they were just everyday realities. His childhood, filled with hard-earned lessons and deep-rooted connections, laid the foundation for everything that came next. It prepared him not only for the challenges of the swamp, but also for the unexpected journey into reality television, where he would go on to share his family's story with millions. But none of that would have been possible without those early years. The quiet lessons, the close family bonds, and the deep love for the place he calls home. Jacob wasn't the central focus of the show when it first aired, but his presence was felt from the very beginning. As the son of Troy Landry, one of the main stars and often called King of the Swamp, Jacob's role initially revolved around supporting his father during the hunts. However, it didn't take long for audiences to take notice of his skill and composure. Whether he was steering the boat through narrow canals or working closely with his father to pull in an aggressive alligator, Jacob brought a sense of control and reliability to every scene he was in. His responsibilities on the water were significant. Steering a boat during an alligator hunt is no easy task. The water can be unpredictable, the channels tight, and any mistake can be dangerous. While his father handled the gators, Jacob kept the boat steady, navigated through difficult terrain, and helped secure their catch safely. These were not roles played up for the camera. They were necessary parts of the process, and Jacob treated them with the seriousness they deserved. Part of Jacob's appeal was that he never seemed to play to the camera. His personality wasn't loud or attention-seeking. He came across as grounded and genuine, someone doing what he's always done but now with a camera crew nearby. That authenticity helped him connect with audiences across the country. Viewers felt like they were watching a real person, not someone performing for entertainment value. As the series gained popularity, Jacob's role on the show grew. He began to appear more frequently, taking on a leadership role during hunts and managing tasks with increasing independence. His chemistry with Troy was one of the standout dynamics of the series. Their relationship was more than just professional. It was familial, built on years of shared experiences and a mutual understanding of the swamp. They worked in sync, often communicating with few words, which made their teamwork feel natural and effective. Scenes where Jacob and Troy would share a quiet moment between hunts or laugh together after a successful catch helped humanize the show. These weren't actors on a set. They were a father and son carrying out a tradition. Viewers responded positively to these interactions. They added depth to the show, balancing the tension and danger with relatable family moments. However, with increased screen time and public recognition came new challenges. Fame brings with it a level of scrutiny that can be difficult to manage, especially for individuals who didn't set out to become celebrities. For Jacob, who had spent most of his life in the relative quiet of the swamp, the sudden attention was a significant change. Fans were curious about his life, his views, and his family. While most of the attention was supportive, some of it ventured into criticism, especially as the show grew in size and influence. Behind the scenes, the production process added a new layer of complexity to Jacob's day-to-day life. Filming for Swamp People wasn't just about following hunters during the season. It required long hours, repeated takes, and logistical planning. Weather, equipment, and safety concerns all had to be accounted for. Although the series is rooted in real-life events, there are practical needs for filming that sometimes mean adjusting how things are done. For someone like Jacob, who values authenticity and directness, adapting to the demands of television was not always straightforward. In interviews, Jacob has mentioned that despite being a reality show, the production team does have to ensure that the content remains engaging for viewers. This can sometimes involve reshooting scenes or waiting for the right light to film, which can slow down the actual hunting process. Jacob and his family were clear from the beginning that they wanted the show to reflect real life as closely as possible, but they also understood that TV is a business and needs to attract an audience. As the show became more popular, it also drew criticism from some corners. Animal rights organizations raised concerns about the ethical implications of broadcasting alligator hunting for entertainment. Others questioned whether the show exaggerated or staged certain scenes to create drama. These critiques, while not uncommon for reality shows, did create pressure for Jacob and the rest of the cast. They were no longer just hunters. They had become representatives of a lifestyle and a region, and they had to defend not only their profession but also their intentions. Jacob responded to these criticisms with a straightforward attitude. He has often stated that what viewers see on the show reflects the reality of their work. Alligator hunting in Louisiana is not only legal but also regulated by the state to maintain ecological balance. The Landry family has always approached their work with respect for the animals and the environment. Jacob has emphasized that their goal is not to entertain through violence, but to showcase a way of life that has been passed down for generations. Despite the external pressure, Jacob remained focused on his core values. He continued to appear on Swamp People season after season, earning the respect of his peers and fans alike. His work ethic and calm approach stood in contrast to some of the more dramatic personalities often found in reality television. For many, he became a quiet hero of the series, a reliable presence who embodied strength, patience, and family loyalty. Over time, Jacob's role on the show evolved. He took on more responsibility, not just during hunts but in terms of representing the family brand. He appeared in promotional material, gave interviews, and participated in public events. Through it all, he remained true to his background. His approach didn't change dramatically with fame. He was still the same man who had learned to navigate the swamp as a child, now doing it with cameras following closely behind. The success of Swamp People helped bring attention to the culture and challenges of those living in southern Louisiana. It provided viewers with a new appreciation for a community often overlooked by mainstream media. Jacob Landry played a key role in that portrayal. He showed that the swamp wasn't just a dangerous place, it was home, rich with history, meaning, and pride. In many ways, Jacob's rise through the series mirrored the show's own growth. From a supporting role to a familiar face, he came to symbolize the quiet strength of the people behind the action. His journey wasn't about seeking fame, but about honoring his roots and continuing a family tradition. And for those watching, it became clear that Jacob Landry wasn't just another television personality. He was someone with a story worth following. As Swamp People moved through multiple seasons, the demands of the show increased, and Jacob had to make choices about how much of himself and his family to share with the public. He continued to take part in the series, but always with an eye on maintaining authenticity. For him, the priority remained the same: doing the job well, staying connected to his family, and respecting the land that gave him everything. Jacob is married to Lindsay Landry, and their relationship has been a steady presence throughout his years in the public eye. Lindsay is not just a partner in name, but someone who plays a vital role behind the scenes, helping to keep their family grounded while Jacob juggles the demands of his profession. Although she doesn't often appear on screen or in public interviews, her influence is clear in the way Jacob talks about balance and responsibility. Those who follow Jacob on social media or hear him speak in interviews can see how much he values her role in his life. He has often spoken about the importance of having someone by your side who understands the pressures that come with fame and who supports you without needing the spotlight. Together, Jacob and Lindsay are raising two sons, Ridge and Case. Just like Jacob once did with his father Troy, he is now passing on the same traditions and life lessons to his own children. In many ways, this generational cycle is what defines the Landry family. Each generation learning from the one before, not just how to hunt or survive, but how to appreciate where they come from. Jacob has made it a point to involve his sons in the world he grew up in. He doesn't keep them shielded from the swamp or the physical work that comes with it. Instead, he sees it as an opportunity to teach them life skills early on, not just for the sake of tradition, but to help them build character. Whether it's showing them how to handle a boat, cast a fishing net, or understand how nature works, Jacob believes that these experiences help shape a strong foundation for their future. He also understands that his sons might not choose the same path he did, and for him, that's perfectly fine. What matters most is that they grow up with a clear sense of who they are and where they come from. The importance of family time is something Jacob doesn't take for granted. Even with his busy schedule, whether it's filming, running swamp tours, or working on other business ventures, he prioritizes quality time at home. He's shared in interviews that he makes a conscious effort to switch off from work when he's with his wife and kids. Whether it's sitting down for dinner together, doing chores as a family, or simply relaxing at home, these moments are what keep him centered. They're also the moments that don't get broadcast on television, but they carry the most meaning. The Landry family isn't just close within the household. Jacob maintains strong ties with his extended family, especially his father Troy and his brothers. The bond between the Landry men is something fans of Swamp People have seen on screen, but it's even more present in real life. They often work together, not just on the show, but in everyday business and community efforts. The unity they display is a reflection of the values instilled in them since childhood: teamwork, trust, and respect. What makes Jacob's approach to family life noteworthy is how deliberately he shields certain aspects from public exposure. While he's open about his work and occasionally shares moments with his children or wife online, he draws a clear line between public and private. In an age where so many people feel pressure to document every detail of their personal lives, Jacob takes a more measured approach. He has said before that he wants his children to have a childhood that feels normal, not one that's constantly under observation or shaped by public expectation. Living in the spotlight has its downsides, and Jacob is fully aware of the challenges that come with being a public figure. Public attention can sometimes spill over into family life in unexpected ways. From online comments to public speculation, there are times when being known can create discomfort. However, Jacob and Lindsay have remained focused on creating a home environment that is calm, secure, and full of love. They make decisions not based on what the public wants, but on what is best for their family. Raising children in an environment tied so closely to nature has also become part of Jacob's parenting philosophy. For him, the swamp isn't just a place of work, it's a teacher, just as it was for him. He wants Ridge and Case to understand the value of hard work, patience, and respecting the environment. These aren't just lessons about catching fish or tracking animals. They're about learning to deal with life's ups and downs. Nature can be unpredictable, and so can life. Learning to handle both with calm and focus is something Jacob believes is important for every child. It's also worth noting how Jacob approaches discipline and growth as a parent. Rather than being overly strict or controlling, he seems to follow the model set by his own father, one of guidance, encouragement, and teaching through experience. Mistakes, in Jacob's view, are not failures. They're part of the process of learning. Just as he was taught to try again after messing up as a young boy, he teaches his sons the same way. It's a patient approach that reflects a deeper belief in the value of self-reliance and resilience. Despite his fame, Jacob has always made it clear that his personal life is his foundation. While some people get lost in the noise of television or public recognition, Jacob uses his time away from the cameras to recharge. For him, there's nothing more fulfilling than knowing his children are growing up with love, stability, and a strong sense of who they are. Family is also central to how Jacob defines success. While many people measure success by wealth, status, or career achievements, Jacob places more value on the relationships he's built and the legacy he's helping to pass down. That legacy isn't just about hunting or being on a TV show, it's about living with honesty, keeping traditions alive, and raising children who understand the meaning of hard work and humility. He also continues to honor his connection with his parents, Even as an adult and a father himself, Jacob often spends time with his father, Troy, both in professional settings and in personal life. They still share a bond forged in long days on the water and deep conversations about life. It's clear that Jacob looks up to Troy not just as a mentor, but as a man who helped shape his views on fatherhood, work, and personal responsibility. Life for the Landry family is not always perfect, and Jacob has never claimed it is. Like any family, they have their challenges. But what sets them apart is their consistent effort to stay connected, support one another, and focus on what truly matters. In a world that moves fast and changes constantly, Jacob finds peace in the simplicity of his family life. That simplicity is not about doing less. It's about choosing what's meaningful and holding on to it. Over the years, Jacob Landry has built a life that balances public and private, tradition and modernity, ambition and contentment. His home is still in the same small town where he grew up. His values remain rooted in what he learned as a child. And his greatest pride comes not from fame, but from the family he's raising. Whether or not Ridge and Case follow in his footsteps, Jacob's focus will remain the same: to guide them, support them, and help them grow into strong, kind, and grounded individuals. And in doing so, he continues the legacy of the Landry family, not just through gator hunts and swamp stories, but through the way he lives every day. As Swamp People continued through its many seasons, viewers began to notice that Jacob Landry was appearing on screen less frequently. For someone who had become such a recognized figure in the show's earlier years, his reduced presence raised questions. Fans wanted to know, where was Jacob, and what was he doing now? Had he left the spotlight for good, or had he simply chosen a different path? The answer, as with many things in Jacob's life, is rooted in purpose and balance. While he may no longer appear in every episode of Swamp People, Jacob hasn't abandoned the lifestyle that first brought him to the screen. He still lives in Pierre, Louisiana, the same swampside town where he was born and raised. His roots in the region are deep, and his connection to the land remains as strong as ever. What has changed, however, is how Jacob spends his time. After years of filming under intense conditions and dealing with the demands of reality television, he has taken steps to diversify his focus. Rather than limiting himself to the show, Jacob has explored other avenues that allow him to stay connected to his heritage while also evolving as an individual. This includes both creative pursuits and practical business ventures, all while keeping his family at the center of everything he does. One of the more surprising chapters in Jacob's journey came in 2015, when he worked as an assistant director and actor in the independent horror film Paranormal Extremes: Text Messages from the Dead. While the film itself didn't make major headlines, Jacob's involvement in it revealed another side of him, one that was open to exploring new creative outlets. It also showed that he was willing to step outside his comfort zone, trying something entirely different from his usual work in the swamps. His participation in the project wasn't about launching a Hollywood career, but about experimenting with storytelling and film in a way that felt authentic to him. Even before that, in 2013, Jacob appeared on The Queen Latifah Show, giving viewers a glimpse into his life away from the swamp. The interview focused on his role in Swamp People, but also allowed him to speak about his background, the values that guided him, and how he managed the growing attention that came with being on television. His appearance on the show wasn't dramatic or heavily scripted. Instead, it reflected the same calm, straightforward nature that fans had come to admire. It was a chance to connect with a broader audience and show that his story, while unique, was grounded in familiar values like hard work, family, and honesty. Away from the cameras, Jacob has developed a number of business projects that are closely tied to his roots. One of the most notable is his involvement in organizing alligator hunting tours and swamp experiences for tourists. These tours offer visitors a closer look at the lifestyle portrayed in Swamp People, but with a greater emphasis on education and ecological respect. Jacob uses these experiences as opportunities to teach people about the importance of conservation, the role of regulated hunting, and the cultural significance of life in Louisiana's wetlands. For many visitors, meeting Jacob in person and hearing his perspective directly is a highlight. His approach to guiding tours isn't flashy or exaggerated. Instead, it's practical, informative, and respectful. He shows people the beauty of the swamp, not just its dangers, and helps them understand how people like him have learned to live in harmony with such a challenging environment. These tours have become more than just a business venture. They are a platform for storytelling and education, allowing Jacob to continue sharing his world in a way that feels meaningful and sustainable. In addition to his tourism work, Jacob has become involved in swamp conservation efforts. Collaborating with local organizations, he helps promote awareness of environmental challenges facing the region. These include erosion, pollution, and climate-related changes that are threatening the delicate balance of the wetlands. Jacob has been vocal about the need for responsible stewardship, especially among those who make their living from the land. He believes that it's possible to maintain traditional practices like alligator hunting while also protecting the environment for future generations. He often speaks about the responsibility that comes with visibility. Being on Swamp People gave him a platform, but it also gave him a duty. He wants to make sure that people understand the full picture, not just the dramatic hunts, but the culture, the ecosystem, and the way everything is connected. He's made it clear that hunting isn't just for sport or show. It's part of a regulated system that, when done properly, supports environmental balance and local economies. Despite stepping back from full-time television work, Jacob still makes appearances on Swamp People from time to time. These are often tied to major hunting seasons or special episodes, and they serve as a reminder that while he may have shifted his focus, he hasn't completely walked away from the show that brought him into the public eye. His appearances are usually well received, with fans expressing appreciation for his continued involvement and his consistent dedication to the values he's always represented. He also stays connected to his audience through social media, where he shares updates about his life, his family, and his work. His posts often include photos of the swamp, moments with his children, or snapshots from his tours. These updates provide a more personal look at Jacob's world and help maintain the bond he's built with his audience over the years. While he doesn't post excessively or chase attention online, his presence is consistent and appreciated. Looking ahead, Jacob has expressed interest in expanding his efforts to educate young people about the importance of conservation and the traditions of swamp life. He sees value in teaching future generations, not just his own children but others who may never set foot in Louisiana, about the balance between nature and culture. He hopes to develop more outreach programs and possibly collaborate with schools or community groups to share knowledge and experience. It's clear that Jacob's vision for the future is not about fame or expanding his personal brand. It's about ensuring that the values he grew up with, respect for nature, family unity, and the importance of living honestly, continue to thrive. Whether that's through a camera lens, a boat tour, or a conversation with a curious tourist, Jacob remains committed to sharing his story in ways that are real and impactful. At the heart of it all is a deep love for the swamp and the people who live in and around it. Jacob has always said that the swamp is more than just a place. It's part of who he is. Every tree, waterway, and sound carries meaning. The lessons he learned as a child, the work he did with his father, and the moments he now shares with his own sons, all tie back to that place. For Jacob, the swamp is not something to be tamed or conquered. It's something to be respected, protected, and passed on. A recent photo of Jacob standing quietly on a boat, the sun setting behind him, says more than words ever could. There's a stillness to the image, a reflection of the peace that comes with knowing who you are and where you belong. Jacob Landry may not be on television every week anymore, but his story continues through his work, his family, and the legacy he's building every day.